House Judiciary Committee will come to order. Today, the subcommittee meets to conduct oversight into the administration of U.S. citizenship and immigration services. USCIS is responsible for maintaining the integrity of the immigration adjudication process, including for naturalization, employment authorization, employment-based green cards, and certain non-immigrant visas. USCIS also runs E-Verify, which allows employers to determine the work eligibility of their employees, and the Systematic Alien Verification for Entitlements, SAVE program, which allows states and other jurisdictions to verify the immigration status of foreign nationals for purposes of receiving public benefits. We welcome USCIS Director Jaddou to answer questions about her conduct as head of this agency. During the Biden presidency, America has suffered an illegal mass migration on a scale never seen in recorded history. 7.6 million foreign nationals have been allowed, indeed many would say encouraged, to illegally enter our country, overwhelming our social services, our public schools, our public hospitals, and inflicting all manner of crimes upon our people. USCIS, under its current director, has played a central role in this calamity by abusing its authority and twisting the law to permit millions of illegal aliens to claim special privileges not available to legal immigrants or American citizens. From the first day of Biden's presidency, USCIS rescinded the Trump policies that protected the integrity of our immigration system. It adopted policies that transformed temporary programs into de facto permanent residency programs and helped lock in decades-old decisions that had obviously been contradicted by events. For example, temporary status for victims of a hurricane in Honduras that occurred 20 years ago. Most infamously, they took a parole authority that required case-by-case review of individual exigent circumstances to provide temporary entry to the United States and transformed it into a fraud-ridden mass admission of more than 500,000 Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans, up to 1,000 every day. The administration's illegal parole program purports to require a sponsor to take personal responsibility for supporting such parolees during their stay in the United States, but USCIS has perverted this requirement by accepting sponsors who receive welfare benefits themselves, who've submitted fraudulent documents, or who are subject to deportation themselves. No attempt is made to determine criminal histories or to check the veracity of sponsors' claims. In some cases, sponsors advertise their services for a fee. Literally, one parolee can immediately arrive in this country, receive indefinite status, and then sign up as a sponsor for the next. This is illegal chain migration on steroids, all made possible by an agency willing to contort and ignore the law. The goal of this agency and its director is obvious and it's undeniable: to funnel as many aliens directly into the country by flying them directly to every major city in America. In fact, when committee staff asked questions about how the agency ensured sponsors fulfilled their legal responsibilities, they told us not to worry. That's because the goal is that the sponsor becomes irrelevant once USCIS grants the alien a work permit. And now we learn the agency intends to increase temporary work permits from 180 days to 540 days. If anyone wonders why real wages for working families have declined under this administration, look no further than the agency before us today. Fortunately, the American people are already connecting these dots in large enough numbers to change the direction of our government. It shouldn't surprise us, then, that internal USCIS audits have revealed rampant fraud throughout the program. With results like these, it's no wonder that USCIS has consistently refused to answer questions from this committee regarding the CHNV program. We sent USCIS questions on March 26, 2024, and despite numerous follow-ups, did not get responses until August 19th. We sent DHS additional questions in September after a briefing on the program. 3 months later, the committee has yet to receive answers. So we're going to try again today. We will also ask Director Jaddou to explain why the USCIS asylum backlog has roughly quadrupled in size to 1.4 million cases. We'd like to know why 83% of the affirmative asylum cases heard by this agency last year ended up being dismissed or administratively closed. USCIS should be denying or granting the majority of cases so that the alien immigration status has certainty. We would like to know why the USCIS directors refused to implement DHS Inspector General recommendations to prevent misuse of the U visa program, and why she seems to ignore fraud and abuse in programs like those for VAWA self-petitioners, T visa applicants, and special immigrant juveniles. I suppose in one sense, our nation should be indebted to the director for helping to awaken a sleeping giant on November 5th and to awaken the American people to the destructiveness of the Democrats' open border policies. The damage they've done is immense, but they at least have produced a backlash now that will give us the opportunity to restore the integrity of our borders, the force of our laws, and the welfare and safety of our people. If successful, we will not see the likes of this administration again. And with that, I yield to the ranking member for her opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Jaddou, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your service. You know, we often hear the majority talk about the need for people to enter the country legally, making it sound like the vicious fight that they have waged against immigrants is solely about the need to come here legally. And yet, for 4 years under Donald Trump and Stephen Miller, Republicans did everything possible to destroy the legal pathways that our country desperately needs, taking away most of the ways that people had to come legally, even to rejoin family members or to fill job offers. They left the agency responsible for this, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, in shambles, needing to be entirely rebuilt. And you and the Biden administration have done just that, rebuild the agency. Director Jaddou, let's review what you inherited from the Trump administration. In 2020, USCIS was broken. Legal immigration slowed to a trickle. And despite a backlog of over 1 million applications, many employment-based visas were going unused. Applications for citizenship were way down and taking over a year to process, and processing delays were rampant and at record high levels. The Trump administration stripped away USCIS's service-oriented mission and eradicated common-sense policies that improve agency efficiency, replacing it with policies designed to destroy the legal immigration system and make it even harder for anyone to apply for a legal pathway. Now, let's be clear, it is no coincidence that more people came to the border when those legal pathways were intentionally destroyed. Despite claiming to be pro-legal immigration from time to time, multiple members of this subcommittee have advocated for stopping all legal immigration to the United States for a period of time, and that's on the other side. This would take us in completely the wrong direction. Countries that have severely restricted immigration have paid the price. As the baby boomer population continues to age and retires, coupled with declining birth rates, America will continue to need more legal immigration. The truth is that we benefit from the contributions of immigrants and their families in every single field of work, whether it is in the dairy industry in Idaho or the home healthcare industry across the country, or yes, even the electric car industry pioneered by an immigrant named Elon Musk, who was undocumented when he launched his company. The U.S. needs and benefits from immigrants. From a purely economic standpoint, immigrants helped us to recover from the pandemic downturn and grow our economy far more quickly than we would have otherwise. Earlier this year, the Congressional Budget Office found that immigrants will add $7 trillion, that's trillion with a T, to the economy over the next 10 years, increase federal tax revenue by $1.2 trillion, and decrease the federal deficit by $900 billion. Americans are rightly frustrated at an outdated, slow, and unfair immigration system. We need a full reform, something that can only be done by Congress and that Republicans time and time again have refused to do. The last time we tried to pass a comprehensive reform of the immigration system in 2013, just imagine that that legislation received 68 bipartisan votes in the United States Senate, 68 bipartisan votes for a comprehensive reform of the immigration system, and yet when it came to the House, Speaker John Boehner on the Republican side refused to bring it to the floor for a vote. Why? Because Republicans knew that it would pass and they didn't want to reform the immigration system. It is quite convenient to have immigrants to scapegoat and blame at every turn. America desperately needs Congress to pass a modernization of our 30-year-old immigration laws, update visa numbers so that they meet the needs of today's economy and families, and legalize the millions of undocumented immigrants who have carried out the daily labor of our country in the shadows for decades now. And we need to fund the agency, your agency, that makes the legal system work. Making the immigration system work will not only decrease pressure on the border, but it'll help America to meet its labor needs, unite families, and keep critical tax revenue flowing to boost our economy, as well as programs like Social Security and Medicare. Just think, undocumented immigrants paid $26 billion into Social Security in 2022, a program that they are not even eligible to receive benefits for. Director Jaddou, you and your team have spent 4 years rebuilding an agency left in shambles by the Trump administration. Despite still largely being a fee-funded agency, USCIS is on sound fiscal footing now and adjudicating more applications than ever before. Over the last 2 years, the agency has naturalized nearly 1.9 million people, has worked to fully vet and admit the most refugees in 30 years, all while dealing with increased strain and workload on its humanitarian portfolio. But without congressionally appropriated funding, the agency is often forced to rob Peter to pay Paul. When resources are shifted to focus on processing green cards or humanitarian applications, other areas suffer. And we've seen that with long wait times to process waivers vital to keeping families together, and consistent delays in the adjudications of work authorization and temporary protected status applications. Stephen Miller and Donald Trump have threatened mass deportations and a complete crackdown on legal immigration. Elon Musk, recognizing his own journey from undocumented immigrant to documented immigrant, has at least recognized that, quote, super talented immigrants deserve additional legal pathways. While he's probably only thinking of himself and the tech sector, the reality is that we have super talented immigrants in every sector of our economy, and they deserve the same respect from a legal immigration system that recognizes their contributions. Thank you, Director, for coming today, but most important for your tireless dedication to ensuring that America continues to be a nation that values and respects the contributions of immigrants. I yield back.
Without objection, all other opening statements will be included in the record, and we'll now introduce today's witness. The Honorable Jaddou is the Director of the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, a position she's held since July 2021. Director Jaddou previously served as Chief Counsel at USCIS from June of 2014 to January of 2017. We'd like to welcome our witness here today and thank her for her appearance. We'll begin by swearing you in. Would you please rise and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief, so help you God? Let the record reflect the witness's answered in the affirmative. Thank you. Please know your written testimony will be entered in the record in its entirety. Accordingly, we'd ask that you summarize your testimony. Director Jaddou, you may begin.
Good morning. Chairman McClintock, Ranking Member Jayapal, and distinguished members of the subcommittee. I'm glad to have this opportunity to discuss the work of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Our day-to-day work centers on adjudicating applications and requests for immigration services in a fair, accurate, and timely manner, and above all, with integrity. On a higher level, USCIS plays a critical role in helping our nation reunify U.S. citizen families, ensure a steady supply of needed labor for U.S. employers, and implement the nation's humanitarian values preserved in our our immigration law. It's important work, and we take that very seriously. I want to take this moment to recognize the dedicated USCIS workforce of more than 22,500 individuals who work to carry out this mission every day. In my time as director, I've had the privilege of meeting many of these exceptional public servants and hope that today's hearing will allow me to share more of the great work they do every day on behalf of the American people. At USCIS, the impact of our work is life-changing, with each application, petition, or request for a benefit representing an individual or a family, not just a file. For many immigrants, USCIS is the beginning of an American story. These immigrants are healthcare professionals, lawyers, members of the U.S. Armed Forces, entrepreneurs, elected officials, and public servants. They're caretakers, high-tech workers, and laborers who fill critical gaps in our workforce. And of course, they are family, friends, and neighbors, and many of them go on to become proud Americans. This work we do at USCIS is more than just a public service. My own parents immigrated from Iraq and Mexico and instilled in me a sense of devotion to family, community, and our great nation. Their dedication and purpose led me to my current role. Many in USCIS have navigated the immigration process themselves or are second-generation Americans and bring that experience to all they do. I joined USCIS as director in August of 2021. Before I arrived, a perfect storm of policy and operational decisions, COVID, and a severely outdated fee structure led to a fiscal crisis at USCIS. The results were a hiring freeze, the termination of support contracts, the issuance of furlough notices to 70% of the workforce, and as you might imagine, very low morale. All of this led to a significant and unprecedented backlog in adjudications. Although we're still working to eliminate that backlog, our diligence and focus has led to the decrease of the backlog for the first time in a decade, 2 years in a row. Despite these and many other challenges that come our way, I have seen firsthand how resilient the USCIS workforce is. They adapt to challenges with the creativity and dedication to deliver on our mission. Recovery wasn't easy. I set priorities to help USCIS get back on track fiscally and operationally. My top 3 priorities were to strengthen the fiscal health of USCIS, reinvigorate our workforce, and make our adjudication processes more efficient. With the financial support of Congress and much-needed investments in our people, processes, and technology, we're now positioned to better serve the nation and ensure that USCIS can continue to operate effectively in the long term. On the humanitarian front, USCIS and our partners across government have modernized and strengthened the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program while continuing to reinforce the capacity of our Asylum Officer Corps. We continue to carry out our role implementing strategies to discourage irregular migration while expanding the availability of safe, orderly, and lawful pathways to the United States. USCIS is also implementing better ways to do business. We're expanding online filing and improving avenues of communication with applicants. In an increasingly digital world, we're transforming our agency to one that is secure, transparent, responsive, and keeping pace with online advancements. My goal every day has been to ensure USCIS is able to uphold America's promise as a nation of welcome and possibility with fairness, integrity, and respect for all we serve. This was my commitment when I was confirmed in 2021, and it remains my commitment today. This nation needs a strong and effective immigration system and policies which reflect our values as Americans. And that policy must promote family unity, economic growth, and the value of citizenship. It must support our humanitarian values and demonstrate our place as a leader among free nations. It must promote lawful immigration and discourage irregular migration. My USCIS colleagues and I know this, and it shows in our work. We stand ready to work with you to continue to bring our immigration system into the 21st century. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Director. We'll now proceed with 5-minute questions from the members, and I'll begin. Our staff asked a series of straightforward questions to get some basic data figures back in September. Your office has simply stonewalled us. We informed you to be prepared to answer those questions today, so there's no excuse for further evasion or obfuscation. So I'm going to ask you now again, how many aliens who have entered the country pursuant to CHNV programs since October of 2022 have changed their immigration status?
So first, let me start by saying I highly value the role that Congress plays in our oversight. I once was here. It's an odd position to be sitting here.
I appreciate that.
But I
appreciate not an answer to the question that we've been asking since September. So could you please answer the question, how many aliens who have entered the country pursuant to CHNV program since October 2022 have changed their immigration status?
So I understand that just before this hearing, in preparation for this hearing, understanding the importance of returning those responses to you, you should have received a response to various questions that were requested in September.
We received a response to one question. I again repeat my question. For the third and final time, how many aliens who've entered the country pursuant to CHNV since October 2021 have changed their immigration status?
At the moment, I don't have those numbers with me, but
this is outrageous. How many aliens who've entered the country pursuant to CHNV since October 2022 remain CHNV parolees?
Again, I don't have those numbers with me.
You were asked these questions in September. You were told in advance of this hearing that they would be asked again, and you were advised to have answers for us. These are basic questions of data. I'm astonished and appalled that you would appear before this committee with all of this advance notice and not be prepared to answer these basic questions.
So, Mr. Chairman, as you understand, I am the director of USCIS. I obviously am going to do my best to get back to you.
There's no excuse for you appearing before this committee unprepared to ask or to answer questions that you were specifically informed would be asked.
And
this is a dereliction of duty, among other things, and frankly, a contempt of this Congress.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, this is a process that you're asking about.
These are basic data numbers.
That's
and again, it's not like you're being surprised by them. You've been asked these questions since September, and you were told they would be specifically asked at the outset of this hearing as you prepared to be here.
Yes, and that's why.
And yet you come here completely unprepared.
That is exactly why I did my best to ensure we could answer what I could answer.
This is one of the saddest appearances by an agency head that I have observed in now 16 years in the U.S. House of Representatives. Let me ask you this. You posted a fact response back in October noting that there is no parole process under any of the CHNV parolee processes. How many CHNV aliens have had their parole expire and have not changed their immigration status?
So again, those are figures that not only require review of our systems at USCIS,
that you've had since September and were told to be asked. Let me ask again. For aliens who are not re-paroled, does their employment authorization terminate immediately upon the expiration of their parole?
Employment authorization was granted for the period of parole. So if that parole period ends, so would the employment authorization document.
Well, why would an alien who has no legal means of being in the U.S. still be able to work legally in the U.S.?
The employment authorization document is tied very directly to the end period of the parole.
What's the largest number of aliens that one supporter has sponsored between October 2022 and present?
Again, another question that I tried to get answered by today, but unfortunately it requires more work and not just work at USCIS.
Well, let me ask you this. What percentage of your workforce is still working at home?
I don't have the answer to that, but what I can say with regard to
What do you mean you can't
work.
answer that question? That's another fundamental basic question of administration. How many of your employees are still working at home?
I don't have that answer with me, but I can get it for you. That is definitely. But what I can say is that USCIS has never been more efficient than it is today, and has never been more secure and more full of integrity than it is today.
Your appearance here today totally contradicts that conclusion. My time's concluded. Recognize the ranking member.
Thank you. Thank you again, Director Jaddou, for being here. And as you just said, and as I mentioned in my opening statement, you and the hardworking staff at USCIS have done extraordinary work in getting the agency back on track from what it was handed to you as by the Trump administration. Somehow, in fiscal year 2023, you completed a record number of more than 10 million pending cases while constantly having unexpected issues thrown your way. And you processed nearly 200,000 employment-based green card applications, which is almost 40% more than normal. And you ensured that none went unused and were therefore wasted, as happened in the previous administration. So tell me, when you began as director, what were some of the biggest challenges that the agency faced? What was the primary cause of those challenges, and what did you do to address them?
Thank you for the question. As you know, USCIS, our primary responsibility is upholding and administering the legal immigration system for the nation. We take pride in that. We take pride in doing it in timely ways, with fairness, and with integrity. And security always top of mind. So we were so proud to take this agency from a place where a fiscal crisis, just coming out of a 2020 fiscal crisis, and we were able to restabilize it financially. We were able to remove a hiring freeze that was required to recoup to recoup the money that we needed to protect the agency and move forward. We've invested in technology, we've invested in people. We are now 22,500 strong, and just before that we were under 19,000. This was no way to run a legal immigration system. When our legal immigration system is strong, so is our economy, so are our families who are wishing to reunite with their spouses and children, and so are our humanitarian values, and the security integrity we have in the legal immigration is strong as well. I am proud that USCIS has achieved those over these last 4 years.
So you inherited an agency that was in a fiscal hole, that had a hiring freeze, that had not enough staff, and wasn't processing any applications, and you turned it around substantially. Over the past several years, the types of individuals that have been appearing at our southern border has shifted from primarily immigrants from Latin America to individuals around the globe of various ages and education levels, some with advanced degrees. Do you think that our outdated immigration system and the fact that visa categories for individuals in specialty occupations and with exceptional abilities are severely oversubscribed contributed to that shift of what we're seeing, who we're seeing showing up on the border, that in short, our legal immigration system is not working to facilitate our ability to bring in the talent that we need?
Thank you. That's a really important question. Immigrants have played a vital role in our economic recovery. They have played it in all sectors of our economy, from the high skill to the low skill to everything in between. We do not have effective legal immigration systems to meet the needs of the nation, and that has shown up in each one of our processes at USCIS.
Well, it's been 30 years since most of these things have been adjusted, so we're still working off of 30-year-old caps in some cases and programs that haven't been updated. You don't set immigration policy, obviously, as director of USCIS, but you certainly see the law's real-life impact in the cases that your agency adjudicates. Are there reforms that you would recommend to help USCIS better fulfill its mandate?
Yes, thank you. That's really helpful, and thank you for asking that question. Number one, USCIS has been a primarily fee-funded agency since it began. Yeah. Today, it's 96% fee-funded. So that leaves us at what we can do based upon what we can charge people who pay for other benefits. So that limits the work we can do. For example, on our work at the border, we only can hire so many asylum officers to do the work we do so well alongside with our partners at Customs and Border Protection. It limits us in our humanitarian work, and it also closes off avenues for us to grow our technology and our processes. So that's the first. The second, I would very much welcome and suggest that we, once and for all, make DACA recipients the Americans they should be. And three, our agricultural community, we need to be sure that our food industry is strong, and many immigrants support us in our food industry, and we need to make that clear for this nation.
Thank you, Director. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Biggs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, thank you for being here. The Cmte program was paused for about 5 weeks earlier this year because of rampant fraud, and we have supporters that were using all kinds of in their applications, all kinds of misinformation and fraud. So I just want to cover a few of these real quickly. Do you agree that the same Social Security number was used on at least 20 different CHNV supporter applications?
So first, let me start by saying...
So these are yes/no questions. So yes or no?
I just want to make clear that the role that USCIS plays is on the supporter side.
And I'm asking about supporter applications.
Okay. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that question then? I heard it as the parolee.
No, the same Social Security number was used on at least 20 different CHNV supporter applications. That's the question I asked.
Sorry.
You're aware of that?
Yes, I am very aware of...
That happened at least 3,200 times.
I don't have the exact number.
That's according to DHS's report.
Okay. You
don't dispute DHS's report.
No, I absolutely will not.
Also, the same phone number was used on at least 20 different supporter applications, at least 3,300 times. That's according to the report. Do you agree that that report's accurate?
I don't have that report in front of me, but
I'm reading from it.
I won't dispute. Yes, but I don't have it in front of me, and I would prefer.
So you would dispute it?
No, I'm not disputing what I am saying.
So you would deflect and ramble around. You don't disagree with that number. You don't think I'm deliberately cherry-picking number and just saying, oh, I'm just throwing this stuff out. I'm giving you the numbers from the report. Do you trust me on that? Do you at least trust me that far?
Yes.
Okay, so then you agree with that number. The same email address was used on at least 20 different supporter applications, nearly 2,000 times. You agree with that?
Sir, if there is a situation where we have concerns of fraud and integrity, we take action at USCIS, and that is exactly what we have done with regard to CHNV.
So let's clarify here. So I'm laying foundation, and you don't really want to admit that there's this much rampant fraud here. You're trying to tell me that when you find fraud, we cure it, and yet nearly 2,000 times you had the same email address used on 20 different supporter applications. The same exact 184-word text response to a question on the supporter application was used on more than 1,800 such applications by nearly 190 different CHNV supporters. More than 460 non-existent zip codes were used on supporter applications on behalf of more than 2,800 CHNV aliens. So you see, you can dance around and say you don't have the report in front of you and whatnot, but these are the facts this program is rife with fraud. As of August 6, 2024, DHS had approved more than 80,000 CHNV supporters who were in the U.S. on a temporary basis. I'm going to give you some numbers. 224 CHNV parolees approved as CHNV supporters. That seems awkward. 170 additional parolees, non-CHNV, approved as CHNV supporters. 28,322 temporary protected status holders approved as CHNV supporters. 19,865 SLEs approved as CHNV supporters. 311 DACA recipients approved as CHNV supporters. 1,300 plus aliens in the U.S. on temporary visas approved as CHNV supporters. 64 refugees approved as CHNV supporters. 1,912 conditional permanent residents approved as CHNV supporters. That is the program that you are administering. That's the section that you're administering. That's the supporters. I'm not talking the aliens. I'm not getting into the violation of law of the U.S. Code 1182 when the use of parole is supposed to be on a case-by-case basis, where Secretary Mayorkas himself has sat here and under oath said it's supposed to be on a case-by-case basis. I'm not getting into that. What I'm getting into is a program the side that USCIS is supposed to actually administer, and that is the supporter applications. And the fraud was so rampant, you closed down the program. But you didn't fix it. It's still ongoing. We're waiting for the next report to confirm that these things are still going on because it wasn't fixed. Mr. Chairman, my time's up. I'll yield back.
Mr. Chairman, can I respond to the question?
Briefly, sure.
Yes.
There was no question because I asked questions you couldn't answer, so that's why I gave a statement. There was no question for you, ma'am.
Can I comment on?
No, you can't comment, but if you can answer the gentleman's question, I'll extend you the time to do so. But I don't want another speech explaining why you can't answer the question.
I was trying to explain what CHNV and the changes we have made to ensure its integrity. I think there were some points made that suggested we haven't made multiple changes, and we have.
You can put those in a follow-up memo to the
We'd be happy
committee.
to.
We will have many other questions that we won't be able to ask directly at this hearing.
We'd be happy to. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Loughran for 5 minutes.
Thank you. I move to strike last word. In your introduction, you talked about Ms. Jaddou's service in the administration. However, I'd like to note she was also senior counsel to me from 2002 to 2007 and served as chief counsel for the House Judiciary Immigration Subcommittee, this very subcommittee, from 2007 to 2011. And I would note, despite kind of, well, I don't want to categorize the tone of the questions, but when she served as chief counsel, although we did have from time to time differences of policy between the Republicans and the Democrats, we never had animosity among the council. We worked in a way that was very cordial and constructive at that time, and I would like to thank her for the work that she did for the committee. Before I ask you about the improvements made in the CHNV parole program, I did want to talk about what you've done on the proposed rule in October of last year, modernizing the H-1B requirements and providing flexibility in the F-1 program. I realize this isn't finalized, but you are able, I think, to talk about the purpose of the proposal, even though the rule isn't finalized. It seems to me that the finalized portion of the rule addressing the lottery integrity measures would close a significant loophole that was being misused by certain applicants. Can you explain how that rule enhances the fairness and transparency in the H-1B selection process?
Thank you so much for the question and the acknowledgement of my time here. Really, really appreciated my time here with you. So this is an exact example of how we see a problem, we take action at USCIS. When we started to see the numbers of multiple filings, and these weren't just onesies and twosies, these were multiple filings, spike, we took immediate action. We were transparent, we let the public know, and we took action with a regulation, and we took action behind the scenes as well. And we introduced a notice of proposed rulemaking that you noted, and in fact, because we couldn't finalize the whole rule fast enough in time for the latest lottery to correct that problem, we took a portion of it and finalized the piece to create that beneficiary-centric system that eliminated those concerns.
Thank you very much. I would just note that when the first Trump administration was closing out, the agency was going to actually close its doors. There were frivolous activities underway that were not supported by the fee structure, and former Congressman Jeff Fortenberry and I actually worked together to put together a structure to prevent the agency from completely closing. But it was a mess. When you took over, I want to credit you for what you've done to turn it around, and also ask you, could you or would you like to explain the changes that you've made with the CHNV parole program so that the committee can have a full understanding of the improvements?
Absolutely. When we do our work at USCIS, we are always iterating, reviewing, and making changes because we see problems. It may be with regard to how we process, it might be a security issue, it might be an integrity issue. We have people around the agency, and including a full directorate whose job it is to focus on fraud detection, national security, and public safety. So, in CHNV, like in all of our other processes, we saw some issues, we took action. Here, we've added in the biometrics collection of sponsors, so that includes fingerprints as well as photos. We've also introduced automated systems, not just manual systems, but automated systems that allow us to connect to other additional systems, for example, the Social Security Death Match Index, before a reviewer ever even opens that request. We have also trained and retrained and provide guidance and things like be on the lookout for information for each of our reviewers who are conducting that work. There are many more things that we have done and we will continue to do.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My time has expired. I yield back.
Mr. Chairman, may I submit a request? Unanimous consent. Thank you. I'd like to submit that for
This is a unanimous consent request to insert into the record an article entitled Fraud Plagues Biden Parole Program. Michelle Obama's passport used dead people named sponsors.
Correct, sir.
Thank you. Without objection. Mr. Tiffany.
Director, there's significant fraud that's happened in the Afghan SIV program. There's a bribery scheme that was identified by the Department of Justice and brought to light where they're submitting fraudulent letters recommending SIVs to the State Department. Are you familiar with those SIV cases that are being taken care of where there's fraudulent applications being put in?
Thank you. I am familiar with the issue. I'm not sure I can go into detail given the investigation.
How widespread is it?
Again, it would be. It's not something that I can go into publicly.
You can't answer the question because you don't know the answer, or you're saying you're hiding behind a legal shield?
I think in an appropriate setting, I'd be happy to get back with you on that.
What would be an appropriate setting?
I think that given the investigation you've noted, I think it would be really important for us to do that.
Mr. Chairman, I think that that's something we should take into consideration as we go forward.